and circles into your drawing. So every day there's a quick challenge, and I think it'll really get you and your students in the mood for sketchnoting. Why sketchnote? There's been lots of evidence recently, especially in the last couple of years when sketchnoting has really taken off in the educational community, that it appeals to students with different learning styles, so visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and there's evidence that shows that it enhances and increases students' listening, their comprehension, their recall, and their creativity. But as an aside, I think there's some psychological benefits to sketchnoting as well, because I'm in my happy zone when I sketchnote. I just love it. I find it relaxing. I find it very calming. I love being creative. It gives me a huge satisfaction to share my sketch notes and to see that they're being enjoyed by other educators. So there's many reasons to sketchnote personally and with your students. There's a link there on the left. Click here for a blog post called Making Learning Visible. That's a really good blog post, so take a look at that. There's more reasons why you should be sketchnoting with your students. If I could tell you how many times I've heard this, but I'm not an artist. And I hear this not from kids, I hear this from adults. I hear it all the time in sketchnote workshops that I do when I'm presenting. And I want you to think back to when you were a kid. I'll bet you remember enjoying drawing. I don't meet many kids under 10 years old who do not enjoy drawing. Something happens when we grow up. We tend to lose the love of drawing. I'm not sure why that happens, but it certainly happened to me. I probably stopped drawing when I was about 10 years old. This may have been one of my last paintings I ever did. And I stopped drawing because I figured I wasn't very good at it. I just thought, what's the point? I'm not good at it, so I'm just going to quit right now and, take up some other hobbies. So I quit around age 10, and it wasn't until about 2 years ago when I started to notice these beautiful drawings on social media. I learned they were called sketch notes, done by educators, illustrating lots of different concepts. So I thought I'd give it a try. I did a little bit of research. I decided to start drawing on my iPad because I love everything tech. So this was the first drawing attempt on the iPad. I was trying to draw this, so there is quite a learning curve on the iPad. There's certain tricks I'm going to show you later on in the presentation on how to get better at drawing on the iPad, but in general, I think you can say that about just about anything you take up, guitar playing or whatever it is. Knitting, you get better with practice, and it's the same thing with drawing and with sketchnoting. When you're contemplating how to start, there's analog or there's digital. There's pros and cons for each. I have to say I prefer the digital for the simple reason that I find that everything is on my iPad. So I've got, there's different drawing apps. I'm going to show you in a minute which drawing app I prefer, but within each drawing app, there's all kinds of different pens. There's different textures. You can be painting, you can be charcoal drawing. There's different papers you can draw on, and then everything is saved digitally, so you don't have to worry about losing it. So I prefer digital, but depending on your class setup, if you don't have iPads, for sure, then paper and pen is fine. You may prefer to use pen and paper. It's a personal choice, but I prefer using digital. So these are the apps that I recommend. Paper by 53 is one of the most popular apps out there for drawing on the iPad. It is free. My personal favorite is Procreate. It is fairly expensive, but I hope to show you at the end of the presentation today. I'm going to attach my iPad and take you through some features of Procreate that I absolutely love. But there are a ton of other apps to choose from as well. So if you click on any of those links, once you get the presentation, it'll take you to those apps that you can download. Some of them are free, some of them cost money. I get a question a lot, what stylus do I use? And I've done the expensive way for research. I actually went out and bought all kinds of different styluses to find the ideal stylus. Now, again, stylus preference is very personal. you might have to go through a similar process to find the one you like, but I can save you from the trouble and the expense by recommending my favorite is number 6 is the Musume Noche. There's actually a different one called the Musume Noche Prime, which has a rubber grip, which I find even easier to handle. You can find these on Amazon. They're about $20. If you do go ahead and buy that, then you should buy the tips as well. There's an extra set of tips that you can buy, 6 in a box. I recommend that because the tips, every now and then they fall off and you need to replace them. But there are many sketchnote artists, iPad artists, who don't use styluses at all, who just use their fingers. Just something that I prefer using a stylus because if you can see it at number 6, the point is quite fine. And I like that for drawing finer detail. Drawing a joke. I love this joke on the right, by the way, how my brain works. Utterly obsessed or uninterested. That's totally me. And that is it's a cartoon. It's a drawing. I wouldn't necessarily call that a sketch note. It's a drawing, but still I love it. So I put that in there. Number 4, you could sketch note a card. Number 5, a TED Talk. Number 6, a story. Number 7, a movie plot. Number 8, you can sketch note during a staff meeting. Number 9, you can sketch note how-to instructions. And number 10, finally, a live keynote or presentation. In my class, we use a program I teach French and technology, but when I teach French, I use a program called AIM, and it's a story-based program. So my students enjoy creating sketch notes out of the stories that we've done in class. And so it's another way of doing a story retell. Instead of doing it written, they do it in a combination of written and with drawings. There are teachers doing amazing things with sketchnoting with students, so please check out all these teachers. Again, number 1 is my friend Karen Bosch. Number 2, Glenn Downey is an English teacher here in Toronto, who's doing wonderful things with his high school students in his English literature class with sketchnotes. A couple other links there. Number 3 is a fascinating video that you can take a look at. Number 4, my friend Roy and I talked about earlier. Please take a look at his students' sketch notes. They are so inspiring. And his blog post about how he teaches sketchnoting. Number 5, there's a sketchnoting in science class idea. And number 6, a great blog post on how to get students involved with sketch notes. This is an image I found recently online, and it just kind of looks at the different, what's the word I'm looking for? Not structures, but the different concepts of the different features of sketchnoting. So first of all, there's different texts that you have to learn to use. There's different people that you have to learn how to draw, different symbols or icons. There's different connectors, there's bullets, there's different frames. And don't get freaked out. This will all come as you build up experience with sketchnoting. When I first started sketchnoting, I spent a lot of time practicing different texts. Again, look online for just search sketchnote texts, and you can practice tons and tons of texts. It's a lot of fun to practice, actually. I'm sure your students will enjoy doing that as well. But the truth is that when I do a sketch note, I really just focus on 2 different texts. I've brought it down to like sort of a fancy text, and I brought it down to more of a simple text. Every now and then I'll do a block test, but I don't have a huge repertoire of texts that I use on a regular basis. But it is fun to practice texting different texts. People can be quite daunting for most beginner sketchnoters, but I wanted to show you this slide just to show you that how much you can convey with just stick people. So you can convey conversations, you can convey joy, running, jumping. Another slide here showing you walking, running, fast run, sneaking, praying. Like there's so much you can convey with just stickmen. Insofar as faces goes, you can practice drawing faces. Again, just Google faces, doodle faces to get some ideas of how you can draw many different feelings and emotions with just a few simple lines. Hairstyles, with just a few simple strokes, you can create different hairstyles. And I have fun practicing those hairstyles as well. Animals are quite easy to draw. If you take a look at this image, you can see you don't have to get complicated with your drawings. Just a bunch of, circles and squiggly lines. But by all means, practice drawing with some kind of icon in front of you if you don't have a lot of confidence with your drawing ability. It's always good to have something in front of you. Banners are important in sketch notes to draw attention to certain things, and I always start off a sketch note with a banner, and my go-to banner is the one at the top, and I'm going to show you when I touch my iPad how to draw the one on the top. It's a lot easier than it looks. But there's a few more fancier banners from one of my idols, Sylvia2. If you Google her, you'll find tons of wonderful sketch notes that she does. Here's a great cheat sheet. If you're going to be sketchnoting with your students, I recommend you click on that link for the original, print it out, and hand it out to your students. This was created by Carol Ann McGuire, who is another wonderful educator online who does sketch notes with her students. So there's two kinds of sketch noters. I mean, that may be a little bit too generalized. There may be sketch noters who do both. But I categorize myself as a sketchnoter who does not enjoy sketchnoting live. I find it too much pressure. I have a hard time keeping up with whatever is going on stage. If I'm at a keynote or if I'm at a presentation, I prefer to take notes. But there are some sketchnoters who prefer to sketchnote live. What I do is I take my notes on a Google Doc, and then I'll go back afterwards and highlight what I felt were the relevant topics, and then I will go back and create a sketch note based on those highlights. This is more time consuming, as you can imagine, because not only do you take notes during the lecture, but then you also draw a sketch note after. But it's what I prefer, but some people prefer just doing it live. You can also use Google Drawings if you want to plan out your sketch note ahead of time. So this is an example of a Google drawing I created before I actually went ahead with the sketch note on the benefits of being on the GAF train, GAF being Google Apps for Education. It's nice to add some depth to your icons and lettering by adding shading. It's kind of hard to see in this slide, but if you zoom up close, you can see there is some gray shading on the left and there's some black shading on the right, and I'm going to show you during my live demo how to do some shading. When it comes to sketchnoting, it's going to take you a while to develop a repertoire of icons that represent different things relating to education. So I've provided this slide just to give you a head start on there are some things which are difficult to draw because they're more abstract and they're hard to conceptualize visually. But if you take a look at number 1, for example, brainstorming, that's something that I've come up with to show brainstorming. Just someone with a bunch of light bulbs going off in their head. That could be innovation as well, or creative thinking. Number 2, problem solving is drawing gears or puzzle pieces. Number 3, risk-taking, drawing someone on a tightrope. Number 4, student-centered learning. Number 5, innovation, genius hour, etc. Number 6, project-based learning. The heart is breaking because your students want to maybe pursue projects that break their hearts as opposed to things that they're passionate about. That's something taken straight from Angela Myers, Angela Myers' hands. Number 7, drawing a pyramid for collaboration. Number 8, thinking. I just draw someone and then turn his head on the side with his eyes looking up to show thinking. A school is tricky to draw. I'm going to show you that live in a couple of minutes. Computer, iPad, I'm going to show you that live as well. Number 12, global. If you're talking about global issues, just draw something to do with the globe. Number 13, inquiry-based learning. I draw a question mark with arrows pointing towards it. Number 14, brain-based learning, a brain with arrows. Number 15, transform. I draw a caterpillar with a butterfly. You could also maybe draw a a bud that turns into a flower. Number 16, advocate. Number 17, choice, showing the two choices there. Number 18, support, holding someone up. Number 19, connected, networked. Number 20, grow. Again, you could draw a plant growing up into a tree. Number 29, spark or ignite, pointing to the flames. And number 22, goal. But what I love about sketchnoting is that challenge, is how do I change something from the abstract to something visual? And I have a friend, Mark Anderson, who is quite prominent on Twitter, on social media. He's from the UK. And he contacted me one day and he said, so this is a slide I use a lot in my presentations, the one on the left, teacher confidence in the use of technology. And he said, what can you do to create a sketch note out of that, to make it more visual? So I created the sketch note on the right. I had a lot of fun with it. But you can see how more, I think, how more effective it is when you have a visual like that, as opposed to a more impersonal graph. I think it really shows, you get the meaning across more readily when there's visual images that go with the words. So he's talking about the 4 stages of teacher confidence in the use of technology. So survival, mastery, impact, and finally innovation, taking off in a kite. Sharing on Seesaw, many, I would say most of the drawing apps do allow you to upload directly to Seesaw. So once you press the share button in the drawing app, on whatever drawing that you've just completed, the Seesaw icon will often pop up. But if it doesn't, it's just a matter of saving the image on your camera roll. So you click the save image, bottom left. And from there, you will open up your Seesaw app and click on the upload file. It'll take you to your camera roll and go ahead and upload the image. Of course, if your students are analog sketchnoting, then you simply use the photo option in Seesaw and take a picture of the sketch note. A little plug here for my book. Go ahead and order that if you're interested. It's 100 of my most popular illustrations. And with the book, you get links to the downloads to all of the drawings. I've taken them off my Flickr account. If you go to my Flickr account, if you Google Sylvia Duckworth Flickr account, you can find a lot of my drawings, but I've taken the most popular ones off and put them into this book. So you get the downloads with the book, where you can print them out and put them in posters in your class, and you can put them in your own presentations. You can share them with your colleagues. So that's my book. I'm really proud of it. It was just recently released by the EdTech Team Press. And finally, have fun with sketchnoting. There is a Google Plus community there that you can click on the link there if you want to get connected with other sketchnoters. But Angela, I hope to